There's a live button.
We're live. Wait, but don't start yet. I gotta start the podcast. I probably should have started the podcast first, but whatever. All right, let him go.
All right, this is the Average Joe Fantasy Football Podcast. It's Thursday, September 25th. We are going to go through this Thursday night game and then jump into the Sunday games. We're all just going to kind of go around and hit our quick observations on this game. Before we do that, you know, Joe, he's the main guy over there, jamming tacos down the neck over there.
Yeah,
Smashing tacos, son.
Smashing tacos. I'm John Miller, and we have a special guest here. It's Elgin Hudson. Say what's up, Elgin.
what's up, everybody? What's up, asshole?
Live from Al Qaeda.
Kill the game. I can't stand you. I should be happy. My tight end scored me 30 points. He's picking on me.
Well, actually,
Live
you don't
from
look like you're on 2020 anymore. I'm so upset that's not on video.
Live from a location that's probably getting targeted airstrikes. That's what we got going on. That's why the video's blurry. Anyway, so let's just get into it real quick because we got a lot to get to. Just some quick observations about the Thursday night game, and just Thursday night games in general. They're probably going to be lopsided for the rest of the season, just because one team's either more prepared than the other, and they're going to have, massive blowouts like this. Just look at the last 3 weeks and just hope that you have fantasy players on the right side of the blowout.
You know what's funny? Prior to the last 3 weeks, there was a myth. Well, it wasn't a myth because it was sort of true that all fantasy players and all fantasy football players shat the bed
on Thursday
night.
Yeah.
It was always like 13-6 or whatever.
Right.
Exactly. There goes that shit.
Well, I think that's a direct result of the rule changes too. I mean, you're seeing a lot of teams just like, it's become an offensive league. You know what I mean? You can't really play defense anymore. I mean, with the exception of Seattle last year, but a lot of the rules that were changed were probably made so they wouldn't be so dominant. But anyway, start all your players against the Redskins in the future from here on out. That's the thing. I made a comment before we started recording with Elgin. We were kind of talking, and I was just saying, a lot of people are going to run out and jump all over Eli and jump all over the rest of the Giants, and I think they're kind of matched up base starters the rest of the year, but he did make the point that they have 5 more games against the terrible defenses in the NFC East. So
They're all terrible.
Yeah, they're all terrible. But still, that said, I mean, I wouldn't read into too much of what Eli did today. I mean, the Redskins are just god-awful. And not only that, Kirk Cousins gave them way more possessions than what they would normally have if they were playing against a real quarterback. Just some of the throws that Cousins was making and offensive line play was terrible. I mean, he was just thrown off his back foot. I don't know who was worse, Kirk Cousins in this game with his decisions or Geno Smith on Monday night. Like, both of these guys just, like, throwing the ball around, reckless abandon, and it's just terrible. How many bad quarterbacks there are in the league.
Cousins seems confident, though. Cousins seems confident, like he has an idea. He just made too many mistakes.
Yeah, he made a lot of mistakes. And the Redskins they just, I don't know. They were put in positions, like that defense was put under fire, and they already were terrible and missing a lot of starters. I mean, the fact that Donnell got open on like 3 red zone looks like that was just, it's like beyond me. Like, I can't even figure it out. They didn't even roll in the other guy. What's that?
He's just running open. I'm watching him scoring right now.
Yeah, I'm watching him scoring right now, and it's like they didn't even, like, after the first touchdown, like, okay, maybe, but the second touchdown, and all right, and the third, like, get an extra guy over there. It was just terrible. It was terrible all the way around, because it wasn't like they were rolling anybody else out that was a touchdown threat, near the goal line. I think he was, for most of them, he was like the only receiver that was out there. But
here's what sort of cracks me up, just something to think about. How many people who aren't using a Monday night rule rule in their fantasy football league are stabbing themselves in the face because they started Kirk Cousins.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. But, I mean, I'm just watching Cousins' interceptions. They're not even close. Like, not even close. And I
Yeah,
don't know
he's
if it's just
literally throwing it to open Giants receivers.
exactly. That's exactly what he was doing.
Just
You
lost his
know,
left tackle.
open Giants receivers. He was also just staring down one or two receivers. I mean, Eli Manning like runs in. It's just bad defense all over the place. So, big takeaways from this game is Manning, Donnell's for real, I guess. Um, he runs like he's running in mud, but people just can't cover him. So I don't understand it. He
He's
does like
long though. He's long.
yeah, he's just I don't know. Well, that's that. Um, Andre Williams got in the mix, but I think that's more a function of a short week and the workload that Jennings has picked up. I don't think that you'll see him get this many touches from here on out unless, Rashad Jennings, misses a
He has
game or
to,
two.
because they can't give Rashad Jennings 34 touches a game.
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to get this kind of production every game is what I'm saying because he's not going to play the Redskins every week. So, I mean, he might be a good RB4 or a flex guy if you're desperate and you have like a if you're
But what did
he's
Williams
not.
do? I didn't. What's his stat
He
line
had
for
60
tonight?
yards and a touchdown.
Oh, no, he's not going to do that every week. But at the same time, he's definitely get way more. He's going to get way more touches this week than, or in the future than he did, let's say, last week. They're not going to give Jennings 31 fucking carries.
Well, no, and we had talked about that in the last show. I said he was a guy to actually look at just because it's not sustainable. And I just think like this production is just a function of how awful the Redskins are. I mean, he'll probably round out around like maybe 30 yards and a touchdown maybe here and there. But I don't think you can expect more than like maybe 5 to 8 fantasy points out of him on a consistent basis, maybe. Giants receivers were wide open, so I don't know what to make of that. I don't know if Victor Cruz is back or if Ruben Randall is a viable fantasy option. I still have to see it against a good defense. That said, they play Atlanta next week, who's not really a great defense, so you could probably still roll them out.
What do you think? You have Ruben Randall. Do you think he's back, or do you think he just played against a shitty defense?
He played against a shitty defense, but he was making plays, and Eli's going to him and trusting him again. So as long as he gets targets, low end 3 maybe. Maybe just because I have him, I'm hoping he's a low end 3. But he's definitely at least a 4 with potential.
Yeah, I mean he's not droppable, but so you're saying like a 4, maybe low end 3, depending on
the
situation, especially because bye weeks are coming up and shit like that.
Well, I'm just going through the Giants' schedule right now, and they're in that NFC East type thing that's going on right now. So, I mean, they'll have some opportunities to score, but they're not going to score 45 points. They might round out around maybe 21 to 24 points. They have the Eagles coming up, Atlanta. Then I think they have a bye. Then I think one of their games they have on a Sunday night or Monday night is against the Colts, which might be a little bit tougher because the Colts can actually score. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But that's pretty much all I have to say on this game. Other than that, then the Thursday night games have been awful. Just all the way around. No defense.
Not competitive at all.
Yeah, they're really not.
It looks like pretty much any time you play the NFC East, you look like you've got a juggernaut offense.
Yeah, even if you're Jacksonville, I mean.
Yeah. Jacksonville made Jacksonville's offense look good. Washington made the Giants' offense look good. The Eagles made the Redskins' offense look good. The Redskins made the Eagles' offense look really good. I don't know, man.
Do you think Giants' defense is playable or have them on your roster?
Who, the Giants' defense?
Giants' defense?
Absolutely not.
They had 5 turnovers. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's Kirk Cousins. I mean, I just rolled through their schedule, and so let's see, we're in week 5 is their next game, right?
Week 5.
So next week they are home against Atlanta, so probably not. Then they're on the road at Philly on Sunday night, so definitely not. Week 7 they are at Dallas, definitely not.
Yeah, you're not going to play him there.
Right. So from that standpoint, I mean, they're going to score points, but you also have to understand that these quarterbacks that they're playing aren't going to turn the ball over to the point to where they're going to have short fields to work with. I mean, how many short fields do they have to work with in this game?
At least 5 or 6.
Right.
At
So that's where
least.
I'm saying like the production is not going to be what it is unless they start turning people over, which I frankly can't see it. They have a bye week 8, the Giants do, and then they are home against the Colts, so you're definitely not playing them there. So.
Yeah, they just got lucky like Atlanta. Atlanta's defense isn't good either, and they
Right.
probably
Yeah.
had the
So.
best season.
Yeah. So they've got some tough sledding down the stretch. But the Giants' schedule, just looking at it, is not really that bad, to be honest with you. Yeah, just looking at it right now, up into the fantasy playoffs, like their schedule is not. No
Yeah,
team jumps out at you. I mean, they have Seattle on the schedule, but that's what, week 13, I believe. No, it's week 12.
okay, as long as
So
it's not 14.
yeah, week 14 they have Tennessee, which might be tough. Then they have Washington week 15. I believe week 16 they have Philly again, right?
They
No,
still is
St.
the
Louis.
best.
They have St. Louis, so that's going to be a house of horrors for Eli in week 16. So
Yeah, at St. Louis too.
yeah, Eli might pull a Kirk Cousins in that game, just because I don't trust him. But we'll see. So that's what I have to say on this game. Joe, you have any takeaways from this game, or?
The only takeaways from this game is I am glad that I don't have Kirk Cousins. I'm glad
Yeah.
that I have Matt Ryan, and
Oh,
I have.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I just have a quarterback that I sort of didn't have to not trust into the first 3 weeks of the season. I mean,
Right.
I have no idea what's going to happen throughout the rest of the season, but it, it's sort of proving that getting one of those studs is premium. At the same time, me getting him in the 7th round is exponentially better
what is the
than
7th?
6th or 7th round
Who, Matt Ryan?
is
Fifth.
exponentially better, and
Thought you
you'll
got him in the
never
5th.
convince me otherwise that it's not better than getting Peyton Manning with the 4th or 5th pick of the draft. So
It definitely is, but I think you took him in the 5th. I think.
Yeah, I think you got him in the 5th round.
did I get him in the 5th?
It
I
was
hope
definitely
he
in the 5th
did.
round. It was the 5th round.
I'll show you.
I know for a fact it was the 5th round because he told me his roster before we made the pick, so I think it was the 5th round.
But still, him in the 5th, and he's definitely going to be a top 5. It's
Yeah.
always good to have
I
one.
believe I convinced him to take him with the number 5 pick because I said I'm eyeballing him myself.
Well, Kid will be convinced it was him. He swears you took him because he was talking about him being a top quarterback this year.
Again,
Well, I mean,
no, he was a 6th round pick.
Was he 6?
I took him in the 6th round.
Okay,
This is good.
that's fantastic value for what's going on right
even
now.
in the 5th or 4th round, it's fantastic value, and that is
Right.
that is
I mean, Matt
something that
Stafford was gone like
football
the
sort of
4th round.
pundits don't fucking get. It's so difficult to win a championship when you're taking a position that everybody can take and anyone in any round from 1 to fucking 17 can have an absolute stud. I won a
Right.
fucking Super Bowl with a first week waiver
Sure,
wire
that's a
free
Super
agent
Bowl,
quarterback. And Cam Newton in his rookie year. So
Right.
when you can do something like that and literally change your season around, it doesn't make any sense to take a quarterback as early as cats are taking them year in and year out.
Yeah.
They might win games, they don't win championships.
I take him in the 4th always, but
Yeah,
I
like
think
the
fifth and
fourth.
sixth is
The
the
fourth
best
is where
round.
you start taking them because you've got your core, either 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers, or 3 wide receivers and a running back, or 3 running backs and a wide receiver. I'd rather have any one of those iterations than quarterback and whatever.
1-1-1 and just be thin no matter what.
And again, the same thing with like tight ends. I mean, yeah, great, you have Jimmy Graham, but I have fucking Julio Jones, and I've got fucking Des Bryant,
Right.
and who do you have? I'm going Des and Julio every day of the fucking week.
Yeah, that's gonna take just about any.
You
Quick question for you though.
uh-huh.
Andrew Luck, Matt Ryan. You believe in Andrew Luck, what he's doing?
I
I know
believe
it's
in
against
Andrew
Jacksonville.
Luck in that I think he is actually a really good quarterback. Um, and I guess the thing is with Matt Ryan, like as happy as I am with him right now, I'm sort of also waiting for the ball, the other shoe to drop. If
Right.
Julio stays healthy, I don't give a
It's going to
fuck.
be trouble.
Yeah. If Julio stays healthy, Matt Ryan is going to have a fucking monster season.
Well, I mean, that's what we had talked about before. We talked about when we were discussing that whole pick and all that, and I said, he almost threw for 4,000 yards. Actually, I think he was over 4,000 yards last year. I think he was
Luck
almost
or
at.
Ryan?
Yeah, I think he was almost at 5
Yeah,
without
he had
Julio Jones.
4,000 plus.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I mean, you throw him in the mix, and then you throw Roddy White in the slot, no tight end to speak of, and Harry Douglas is serviceable, and now Devin Hester's kind of like that X factor. And they have a couple of guys in the backfield that if they get it the right blocking with the screen pass, they're taking it to the house.
I
It's an
think they're
offense
totally
that.
dependent on him, too.
What's that?
Like Atlanta and the Colts, if they're going to score, it's going to be with the quarterback. They're not going to be scoring a lot of points with running the ball and interceptions. It's going to be Matt Ryan who's going to get all the
Right.
points.
Right, and then there's a big difference with them is that they've improved the offensive line to keep him kind of upright and all that other kind of stuff, and their whole thing is, you know, um, keep him upright. Let's roll it out there, and this is the team who, if you watch the Hard Knocks thing, they're just like, hey, this is what we're going to do, and Matt Ryan was telling Roddy White, when they were putting him in the slot, he was like, that's the route Tony Gonzalez used to run, and that's going to be perfect for you. You're going to love
Right?
it. And,
There you go.
it's just one of those things that, they're going to try to score. They're going to try to be, the greatest show on turf, like 2.0. They don't have that sole running back to get it done, but that's not the landscape of the NFL.
Well, they do, but they keep giving it to fucking
Well, yeah.
those just cement legs.
Who do you think it is? Devontae or just anybody but Steven Jackson?
And yeah, well, that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, how is S. Jackson not the fourth best running back on that team?
I can tell you why, because you got to look at the game tape and stuff like that. You got to look at the film and just the determination is going to be, what snaps is he in on? Is he in there on a lot of the passing plays that go for big yardage because he's a bigger back and he can actually knock a linebacker on his ass a little bit?
You know what I see
Look
on the tape? I see him take 5 steps, and I see him take 25 steps to slow down. That's what I see. I see a motherfucker running in quick.
But I get it. But again,
He's running in quick fucking quick dry cement. It dries, and he's still trying to run.
Yeah, he's running hard.
but again, I think the thing you have to realize is that he's probably the guy that's going to hold up and pick up that blitz. Whereas like, look at the rest of the
Yeah,
guys;
because
they're
he
pretty
can't
small.
go nowhere.
They're pretty small.
He just stands there.
That's why
Stands
he
there.
But again, this is why this guy stays on the field. Coaches are going to be very loyal to a guy that can.
So yes, he is a very good. He should be the fullback. He shouldn't be.
Well, I
shouldn't
agree.
Be the running back.
He
You
should
know
be
what
the
I'm
tight
saying?
end, actually.
I think, or a fucking tight end.
I mean, is he that much better than
Well, he
Toilolo?
can't catch. That's the problem. He can't run routes.
That's a horrible idea.
So I think Antone Smith is way better. I think.
I think Smith's way better.
But he fumbled.
I think
and
what's
they
Everybody
don't trust
fumbled
him,
in
man.
that game.
Freeman
Every
is
single
better.
running back fumbled in that game.
Did Steve Jackson fumble too?
I believe he fumbled too.
Then they just got to just throw the dice out. Whoever goes out there, they're gonna work.
This kid still has
Here's the
braces.
thing.
He had 3 touchdowns. That's crazy.
For as much shit as I give. Wait, what did he say?
So this
the
kid
boy
has
Larry
braces
Donald
and had
got
3
braces.
touchdowns. Larry Donnell.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
He could have got a shape up before he got on
Yeah.
TV, though. God.
Yeah,
For as
he
much
didn't
shit as
know.
we give head coaches and shit about keeping these old cats in while the new guys are just ready to perform,
Right.
I think even fantasy football GMs sort of suffer from the same, nepotism, where someone has performed for you, he's the veteran, Blah 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 blah.
I'm the king of that.
Yeah, exactly.
I hang on to everybody a year or two late.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like Arian.
Yes. Y'all don't leave alone about Arian. Give him some time. Hey,
Let me stop.
just
We were
mad 'cause
talking
he
about him
dropped
today.
about 200 on you. That's all good.
We were talking about Arian today. It was funny.
What, about the 200 he dropped on the Raiders?
Yeah, but lots of guys dropped 200 on the Raiders.
I'm
That
just
doesn't mean
saying.
anything. I think Steven Jackson would drop 200 on the Raiders.
Oh, come on now. Yeah,
Steven
we already
Jackson
know.
is still dropping 200 on the Raiders. He can't stop.
Steven Jackson runs
Actually,
100
no.
yards
You know
he's
what?
breaking
Because the
something.
guy needed to drop 200 on the Raiders didn't. So when Ridley didn't get in the end zone, they rolled out and let Brady throw it into the turf. I was really mad about that.
And this year, okay, so now we have a live sort of historic marker of this comment that I'm about to make. Never fucking starting a goddamn Bill Belichick running back ever again in the rest of my life. Until
That
next
guy.
season. Until next season.
Yeah, until next season, right?
until they get somebody that the last viable fantasy football running back for the fucking New
Patriots?
England Patriots,
Was Corey Dillon.
Corey fucking Dillon.
That was 15
Corey
years.
Dillon.
No, actually, no. It was Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, wasn't it?
For a
He
couple
was
of games.
good, but I don't think he ever had like a.
Okay.
Nothing
So
for
Corey,
100
so
yards.
Corey Dillon it is.
LeGarrette Blount had games.
It's
Well,
probably
Ridley-
Curtis Martin, actually.
Ridley did have the one good year, just he couldn't hold on to the ball last year, and now he's all effed up in the head.
Yeah, he holds that shit tight. I think he goes takes that bitch in the shower. The ball with him.
Yeah, and he's just concentrating on not fumbling. And he's not
And
running.
he's not. Yeah, he's not explosive.
Yeah, he's not hitting the hole
He's
like
thinking about it too much.
That's just going to start happening to DeMarco Murray. Keep freaking fumbling.
Yeah, we
can
were
I give
talking
a
about
shout
that
out
too.
real quick? Can I give a shout out real quick?
Yeah, sure.
So,
I want to give a shout out to fucking tacos. Those shits were good.
yeah.
Shout out to
Were
tacos.
good as a
All right, good.
I ate dinner
Shout
like
out to
5 hours
tacos.
ago.
So we covered Thursday. So let's get through a couple of these 1 o'clock games. Let's just go like. I think good format just to go is we'll
Is Elgin beheading somebody? What are you doing?
we'll go
I'm
through.
eat some Cheez-Its.
There you go.
Cheez-Its.
We'll go through all the games, the 1 o'clock games, and we'll just roundtable it. Who are you starting? Who are you sitting? In each game, and who's your sneaky play?
Speaking of sneaky plays, all right. So I've got I've definitely got a sneaky play for the week. I don't know if
Okay.
I'm going to be able to pull the trigger because this would be one of the more bold picks to do.
Okay.
And I could just be setting an entire roster spot on fire, but not really because I got Vereen and Niall Davis potentially playing.
Well,
okay.
we'll wait
I know
till
you can
the
both
4 o'clock games for you to drop that because I think I know you're
All right.
talking about.
All
So.
right. Yeah.
So Carolina and Baltimore. Let's go through that. Elgin, we'll start with you since you're the new guy here to this. Who are you starting in the Carolina Baltimore game? What guys, if you had them on your team, what guys would you start?
Can you not start Kelvin Benjamin at this point? Isn't he in every week until he really shits the bed 2 or 3 weeks in a row?
I don't know. It depends on if you buy into that Cam Newton's going to finish this game healthy.
That's true.
Yeah. So again, I guess if you have him,
Go
you
ahead.
start him. Go ahead, Elgin. Sure. I think his video cut out.
Oh, Cheez-It. Where's Cheez-It? Yeah, he's out. What happened to Cheez-Its?
Well, what we can do is we can have him come back. Let me invite him again.
Muhammad Jihad shit.
Go ahead and invite him back, and then we'll just go through it. He'll have to jump in on the next game.
All right.
So who are you starting? You said Kel.
I think Kelvin is really the only cat.
Really?
Carolina that I would start. I would
Not D'Angelo with the workload.
not D'Angelo with the workload. Maybe.
Greg Olson.
Trying to rejoin. Greg Olson. Is Cam playing? Is he
Yeah, he
definitely
should
playing?
play. He should be playing. Yeah.
All right. Well, if Cam's playing, man, this is a tough game.
It is a tough game.
here's my problem with Greg Olsen. If he gets any more than 70 yards, it's usually incredibly surprising.
Right.
If he gets 70 yards and a touch, I think that's his fucking ceiling.
Really?
Yeah, he's that's not the kind of ceiling I want for any of my players that I'm starting.
Yeah,
on
13
week
points,
in and
right.
week.
It makes total sense to me. Let's look at his stats as we're going through that.
For the season.
Yeah, Greg Olsen. So what you're saying is, you're starting the Carolina passing game somewhat. You're kind of hedging your bets on.
I start Calvin here. I start Kelvin because he's pretty much the only viable option.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, look, people love to sort of give me shit for, expecting my fantasy football players to perform, but that's what I do. I don't start people who aren't good.
Yeah, so
Doesn't make sense to me.
standard scoring, Greg Olsen's fantasy points are 14, 7, and 12.
14, 7, and 12. There's 2 touchdowns in there?
2 touchdowns mixed in there.
So
14,
a touchdown and 7 and
7.2.
70.
Yeah, he had 83 yards and a touchdown week 1, 72 yards week 2, 69 touch last week against Pittsburgh. So, with the tight end landscape being what it is, he's the number 6 ranked fantasy tight end. I think you have to kind of throw him in there.
Yeah.
So on the Baltimore
I would just
side,
be upset that I had him.
yeah. So on the Baltimore side, who are you starting? I think the only person that I would start is probably Steve Smith, just because he's playing his old team.
You know what? I give a shot to Taliaferro too.
I don't think he's the same running back that either one of the Pittsburgh running backs are.
No one said he is.
But I don't expect him to have that kind of production either, and I still think that Forsett is going to be involved, or whichever one of those other guys is actually going to play this week. I know someone's hurt and showed up on an injury report, but still, I don't trust Flacco. I think he may throw for maybe 190 yards, maybe, in the score and an interception. I expect it to be a fairly low-scoring game. Steve Smith could get 100 of those yards, but who knows? He'd probably be the only guy I would put out there with guarded optimism for this game. That's about it. So, moving right along.
Yeah, I'm not enamored with that entire game. Kind of glad I don't have any of those cats.
Right. It's not a pretty. It won't be a pretty game for offense, and we say that now, and they'll probably go up and down the field on each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. On to the Green Bay Chicago game.
Green Bay, Chi-Town.
Chi-Town.
Everybody under the sun. Literally
everybody.
Anybody that has a fantasy football point,
right.
I would be picking them up right now and starting them.
You would start them all.
I'd start Cutler. I'd start Jeffries. I'd start Forte. I'd start Marshall, Lacey,
right.
A-Rod, Nelson, obviously.
Right.
Wonder Boy.
Right.
White Thunder. White Lightning.
White Lightning.
I think that's his new nickname. White Lightning.
White Lightning and the Black Unicorn, right? Star them both. It's like a superhero show. Yeah. White Lightning and the Black Unicorn. So start all your Bears, start all your Packers. Pretty much easy. You don't need us to tell you to start all those guys. If you have questions about whether you start a Bear or a Packer, you should probably not play fantasy football anymore.
Yeah, I mean, as far as all, offenses are concerned, there is just so much talent.
Right.
Vision. Between Detroit, the Packers, and the Bears.
Right.
That is a lot of fantasy points.
Right. So that's pretty simple.
And who'd have thunk it? The best defense on that division is fucking Detroit. That's crazy.
That's probably easy to think. That front
But
seven's
it's
pretty
easy to
badass.
think.
So.
No. It's easy to think because it's true.
Hmm.
But as far as our entire lives,
It's been Chicago, right?
it's been Chicago. It's been
Right.
Green Bay. It's been Minnesota. Had fucking pretty nasty defenses with
Right.
the Williams twins or whatever.
Oh, real quick, we just missed a couple things, but I just want to backtrack a little bit and run through it. Sneaky plays for the Chicago-Baltimore game. You said Taliaferro could be a sneaky play. I'm thinking that's what you're thinking, as far as like a sneaky play. I mean, most people might throw him out there because they don't
Is that
have
what you're talking about?
an opportunity.
Really? I thought you said Taliaferro
Yeah, you think he's a sneaky play in that game?
in the.
Carolina-Baltimore game. We're
Oh,
gonna backtrack a little bit.
yeah. Look. I was sort of looking at Taliaferro just in terms of being in the right situation,
Hmm.
and that's one of the things that I really. That's one of the things that makes and breaks fantasy football seasons. It's
Hmm.
being able to get one of those cats that might not be great, but he will be thrusted into a situation where he doesn't have any other choice but to exist. And
Right.
sometimes they shine, and sometimes they, fucking their wings melt in the sun and
Right.
they plummet to the earth miserably.
Right.
And I think Taliaferro is one of those cats right now.
Okay. Green Bay, Chicago, sneaky play there.
Sneaky play.
Devontae Adams.
Yeah. I would say a super sneaky play would be James Starks or DeJuan Harris.
Right.
Eddie Lacy gets a concussion or he fumbles a ball or two, and
I
next
tell
thing
you
you
what,
know, he
I
might
got
not see the
Starks.
fucking
I have
ball
Starks
again.
in as my flex this week. I'm throwing him out there. With
Starks
Lacy.
is Starks is playing better
Well,
football than he is right now.
he really is. So I mean, he's in there for a flex for me, and I am the Lacy owner, so I'm gonna roll them both out there and see what happens. So I'm okay with that. I don't think there's any sneaky plays on the Chicago side, because it's pretty much the same four people.
Yeah, it is who they are.
Receivers, it's
Who's their
Bennett.
number 3 wide receiver? Anybody?
It's Bennett.
No.
You mean like the actual position? It's
He might be
Antonio
the fucking
Holmes.
number 2 right now because Alshon
Yeah.
Jeffries hasn't done dick, has he?
Well, he's had he should be healthy now. Either way, it's the receivers, it's the tight end, it's Forte, it's Cutler. You roll them out there. I don't really think there's a sneaky play on the Chicago side. Next game we're getting into is the Buffalo Houston game. The Bills coming off a drubbing by the San Diego Chargers.
This
to
is
where
Buffalo,
each-
Houston, you said?
Yeah, where EJ Manuel looked like EJ Manuel that we all come to know and love or hate, depending on what part of the state of New York you live in.
Depending
I
on
guess.
where you drafted him.
Right. Yeah, if you drafted him at all. This probably has the potential to be probably one of the ugliest games on the slate. Just as far as like football is concerned and quarterback play.
Yeah.
I mean, tonight was pretty close, but if it wasn't for Eli saving it with his touchdowns, then we would have probably said that. From the
I
Buffalo
forget where I
side,
heard it the other day, but someone brought up a really good point. We'd all be looking at Andre Johnson as a absolute Hall of Famer right now.
Mhm.
If
Right.
he had any sort of respectable quarterback play in his career.
I still think he's a Hall of Famer. I still think people are looking at that.
I don't know if the numbers are gonna sort of support that.
We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see.
I mean he's clearly the best. He was excuse me. He was talent-wise, he was number 1 for 5-6 straight years.
Right.
In many people's eyes, but sort of those hamstring injuries and shitty quarterbacks
Right.
might have ruined him in that way.
You're probably right about that. Let's see. Buffalo, Houston on the Buffalo side.
What about Sammy Watkins? Bounce back? Is he going to be on the seesaw because of Emmanuel?
Yes, I think he is going to be on the seesaw because of Manuel. I think the only people you can start with confidence is probably the running backs, and that's Spiller and Jackson, and
And
even
by
to
the
say
running
those.
backs, you just mean Fred Jackson?
Yeah, I mean, you have to. Houston's not that great against the run, and Buffalo's defense is actually fairly decent, and Fitzpatrick's a terrible quarterback, so you would expect the Bills to be able to force a couple turnovers, maybe some short yardage situations where Fred Jackson or Spiller can get in the end zone. So, I mean, those are the guys, if I had them, I would probably throw them out there and just kind of go from there.
Right.
I would definitely put them out there and go um, and pop them in as a flex starters probably this week.
I need to
Um,
watch. I need to watch those games because DeAndre Hopkins, he's putting up the numbers, isn't he?
he is, yeah, and Bill O'Brien said, we're the offensive coordinator for the um, Texans, said we have to. I believe O'Brien might have said it too. Said we have to get him the ball. And side note, it'll be one of my rants before I leave the podcast today. We'll get to NFL head coaches later on. But yeah, I would start
He's in your
Spiller.
doghouse now.
Well, there's a couple of them. It's like a handful of them, but we'll get to that towards the end. Um, Spiller, Jackson, stay away from Manuel. Watkins, I guess, with all the bye weeks that are going on, you could probably throw him in there and hope for like wide receiver 2 or 3 production. But I mean, don't be surprised if he doesn't, because I think the Texans, actually, from a secondary standpoint, are pretty good. Houston side, Hopkins, Andre Johnson, you're definitely not sitting him. Especially when Malcolm Floyd was getting open in that game last week. Fitzpatrick, no. And then whatever running back, I guess, is out there, even though Buffalo's front seven's pretty good, I would probably stay away from Foster this week with the injury that he's got. And he's having them more frequently than not, so he's starting to, break down a little bit. Alfred Blue, maybe you throw him in there, but again, it's going to be an ugly game. If you really want to start somebody, I would start the kickers and for both teams, to be honest with you. That's the sneaky play right there, the kickers.
Wait.
Carpenter and Randy Bullock.
Now that I think, oh shit. Now that I think about, you talking about that rant, does your rant have anything to do with giving Mr. Hamstrings too many carries in the second game of the season against the Oakland Raiders?
Hey, you're talking about Ridley?
I'm talking about fucking Arian Foster.
Oh yeah. It has to do well. It has
definition of injury prone.
Well, it has to do with that.
Carries.
Yeah, you were talking week 2. It has to do with that, and I'll just get into it right now since you stoked the fire a little bit. So, my problem with NFL head coaches, and granted, I'm not a head coach, I'm just a guy trying to do the fantasy podcast thing, but I watch a lot of football. I know the game, and it's just I don't know why these head coaches and these offensive coordinators week in and week out try to be too cute and try to outsmart everybody, by reverse psychology, with the game plan and things like that. I mean, it happens all the time, and then these teams go on a losing streak or they get beaten badly at some point, and it's the same old spiel. Let's start in Kansas City. Andy Reid's like, oh, we got to get Travis Kelce the ball a little bit more. You think you didn't draft a receiver because you knew what you had in him, and you give Jamal Charles all these carries, he ends up hurt. You have Donnie Avery and Dwayne Bowe and Anthony Fasano, and arguably the most talented receiver that they have on their team is Travis Kelce, and he plays 1/4 of the snaps. It's dumb. Then you go to a team like Houston. Arian Foster's injury prone. You give him 34 carries against the Raiders. It's the Raiders. Throw in your other guys, see what you have. He comes up on the injury report, And then Bill O'Brien trumps that by saying, hey, we got to get DeAndre Hopkins the ball a little bit more. Your best players on offense the last 5 years on your team are starting to break down. What do you have to gain by throwing them out there that much? I just don't understand it. Tennessee's not going to the Super Bowl. That window is closed on that team. You got to start building for the future. I know people are going to say, well, coaches are out there and they're trying to, win games and their jobs are on the line and all this other kind of stuff. But I mean, it doesn't make any sense if you take your horses and you run them into the ground. You're still going to be in the same position where you're going to go on a losing streak. At least if you have something to get excited about and the team's moving in the right direction. I mean, any owner or general manager that would fire somebody over that is just clueless. In my opinion. The other thing is Norv Turner. He said today, we got to find a way to get Cordell Patterson the ball, more. Really.
No shit.
No shit. I mean, welcome to, 2014, Norv Turner. You have a glorified fullback in Matt Asiata back there. You have a rookie quarterback. You have Adrian Peterson's probably not going to play for that team again. Like, where are you going to score points? Like, give the ball
to the fucking predator-looking motherfucker.
Right, give it to your most dynamic player and just be done with it. Like, I just don't understand why these coaches do this kind of stuff. And then as I'm looking at the schedule here, you look at Joe Philbin in Miami. All last year.
Oh, why'd you even bring up his name?
Well, he kept rolling Daniel Thomas out there, and we were saying, got to get Lamar Miller touches. You can't. And we've talked about the whole RBC, RBC committee thing, all that crap. Like, nobody, guys cannot get in a rhythm that way, and that's, some running backs are rhythm guys. They get more carries, and they get in the rhythm, they start going on the roll, and it's just like, the muscle memory comes back, and then all of a sudden they're feeling good. They're getting the carries. They're hyped up. I mean, Lamar Miller gets 17 carries, 18 carries. He has 100 yards.
I think there's definitely a connection between sort of the bell cows, the Shadys, and the LaShawn and the Le'Veon Bells, and the DeMarco Murrays, and the all those cats of the world that they know they're going to get their touches. And when they know they're going to get their touches, they're going to make the best out of every single touch that you get, versus someone who thinks that they're going to get 5 or 6 touches, and it's just like, all right, well, they don't fucking give a fuck about me. Why do I give a fuck about this play?
I think it's just the opposite, though, to be honest with you.
But it is, but it's not, because the cats that are getting the 5 and 6 carries aren't performing the way that cats that coaches believed in and gave them the touches, good or bad, early.
Well, what I was going to say was, but what I want to say is, like, from a psychological standpoint, if I'm a guy who I know that I'm splitting carries with a guy and I know I'm only going to get like 10 or 12 touches per game, I may try really hard to do something with those 10 or 12 touches to make it, an impression. But sometimes running backs can outrun their blocks or try too hard and, dance a little bit too much. You know what I mean? Because they're trying to do too much instead of being patient. It's very hard to be patient when you think that after your next carry you can be yanked out of the game. You know?
No doubt. But, okay, but then there's cats like, James Starks who sort of embrace that role. And, they know they're going to get their 5 or 6 touches, and they...
But these are all veteran guys, too, though.
And that's the thing. I think, it's not all veteran guys, because, like, Bobby Rainey is younger than Doug Martin, isn't he? Or they're the same year? They're around the same year, and Bobby Rainey is trying to steal that job from fucking Doug Martin. Doug Martin is... Well,
what I mean from the Bobby Rainey standpoint is that Rainey actually played a lot more. I mean, I guess you could say that Starks and Rainey
played a lot more last year. He only played a lot more last year because fucking Doug Martin was shit in the bed, and then he finally got his opportunity, and he tried to do something with it.
Well, no, I get it, but I'm talking about like from a guy from a Lamar Miller standpoint to where the offense has changed and all that other kind of stuff. It's like he's been there, but he's never really been given the opportunity to be the guy, So it's all kind of new,
Right.
Rainey's been there. He's, got talent, but it's just like, I mean, you look at the Panthers guys. I mean, you could say D'Angelo is kind of, the guy who gets all the touches, but the other guys get in there and,
I think,
maybe.
Well, it's funny because I think D'Angelo Williams' best year was the year. Sorry, Jesus. Was one of the years that they were just trying to make Jonathan Stewart that man, and he said, fuck you, I'm gonna put up fucking 35 points a game. Who's literally putting up for me 35 points a game,
Hmm.
60 and 70-yard touchdowns, one or two every fucking week. Um, I, yeah, I guess I, I don't.
I don't think
If
it's
you're
just.
not drafted to be the man as a rookie,
Hmm.
then it usually takes them until they're veterans to, wake the fuck up
It's true.
and, you know, uh, get their heads out of their asses like that. You know what I mean? Or, they were anointed to be the man early, got hurt,
Hmm.
came back and sort of decided, all right, no, I want to do this. Like a Frank Gore is a perfect example. He got hurt way early in his career, and
Right.
he could have said fuck it, whatever happens happens. And I think he honestly, allegedly, and whatever bullshit. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if Frank Gore was was like patient zero of like the whole HGH experiment.
That's funny.
You know what I'm saying? Because he had one of those catastrophic knee injuries, and nobody before him.
Well, he had both his needs, right?
Both of those fucking Johns, I think. Yeah, I think you're right. But he had one of those catastrophic Johns where he wasn't supposed to come back from that shit ever.
Right.
And he came back and played 7 more fucking years straight,
Right.
and performed well. I mean, whether he is or whether he isn't is fucking irrelevant. I don't have any evidence of it. And to be perfectly honest, I think that's a sort of positive check mark for the whole HGH and stem cell sort of shit, because they're getting better. That it's not
Yeah.
it's not steroids, and even steroids, if you fucking use them, that's on you.
Hmm.
But you also have to train hard. You also have to work hard. It's not just I take steroids and all of a sudden I'm fucking,
Right.
Popeye. But like the stem cells, is there? I'm still yet to hear like people dying of like HGH and,
Hmm.
performing too much. The fuck?
Right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
That's weird.
Trying to find.
That was weird. My headphones just died on me.
Can't hear me.
Yeah, I hear you. There you go.
All right.
It's a little.
All right. I'm gonna get through a couple of these more games real quick because my
All right, yeah, go ahead.
time is running short.
And I'm going to start John with Keith
Okay.
in a little bit. So
Yeah, that's cool.
Once John Miller's gone, me and Keith are going to do a little show.
All right. So let's see. We got the Buffalo-Houston game out of the way. So, Tennessee, Indianapolis. There's not much to look at there, to be honest with you. The guys I'm going to start are Walker from the Tennessee side and maybe Sankey. And that's about it.
Hold on. I'm getting like a reverb in my John.
Okay.
Every game that we've mentioned so far is terrible. Who the fuck wants to watch any of those games that I've mentioned so far?
Yeah, there's some awful 1 o'clock, except for the Green Bay Chicago game. The other ones are just terrible.
Except for the Green Bay Chicago game, no one wants to watch those. And then there's 6 teams on bye right now, and
Right.
the Seattle's on bye.
Hmm.
Broncos are on bye. I mean, these are there's like some really good teams on bye right now.
Yeah, Arizona's on bye.
Arizona's on bye. Wait,
Cleveland's on bye. Yeah.
Are the Rams on bye too?
Yes. No. Yeah, they are actually. Rams are on bye.
What the fuck? That's
Yeah.
an entire division on the bye week. Why do that?
Well, the Niners are playing, so I don't get it.
What's
Yeah,
that?
it's awful schedule making, but yeah, Tennessee, Indianapolis though. Going back to that real quick, Sankey, maybe Walker, maybe Sankey. Can't trust any receivers right now because you don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Charlie Whitehurst. If Whitehurst starts, then definitely Delaney Walker because Whitehurst stinks. So he'll dink and dunk it, and Walker should get some opportunity, and they might lean on the run game a little bit. So maybe the running backs in that game. The Colts, start all your Colts. They're at home. Tennessee might get overwhelmed in that game again, just because they're just terrible. Their defense is better than obviously Jacksonville. So, but you're still throwing
Then
Andrew Luck out
again,
there.
the Colts are one of those seesaw teams
Hmm.
where you expect them to be really really good and they
Right.
play just really really poorly against
Mhm. Yeah.
meh talent. So
Yeah.
don't be surprised if something crazy like Tennessee fucking romps them happen. It's also a division game. You can't forget about that.
Well, that's true. Sneaky play from the Colts side, I think it's Dante Moncrief. Mainly because
Yeah,
Hakeem
that's
Nicks is
a good name.
just he's terrible. I mean, he had a touchdown last week and everything, but I mean, and again, when we talk about head coaches, we want to talk about offensive coordinators. Pep Hamilton still continues to throw Trent Richardson out there when Ahmad Bradshaw is definitely the better guy. Now, I will say that Ahmad Bradshaw isn't the 25 carry, 5 reception guy a game because he'll break down too, so I get some of that. But at the
He
same
runs
time,
too hard.
yeah, but at the same time, like if you're not giving Dante Moncrief more opportunity along with T.Y. Hilton, like I don't know what you're trying to do. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dante Moncrief works his way into more touches down
Wasn't
the
it you
road.
that was saying that wasn't it you that was saying that uh Ty Hilton wasn't that good? Was it you?
I don't know if I
I
said he
mean,
wasn't that good.
look, uh, I kind of like Ty Hilton.
I think what I said about
I
T.Y. Hilton is he's like a one-trick pony. Is what I think I said about him.
or I think you might have said that Ty Hilton was a product of a horrible offensive coordinator. The current iteration of Ty Hilton
Right.
is, you know what I'm saying? Because if he was
Right.
like, let's just say he was in like a Julian Edelman-esque role in
Mhm.
New England, do you think
Mhm.
we'd be talking about how fucking Tom Brady is washed up right now?
Probably not. Probably not. But they also said that they got to get the ball in the hands of T.Y. Hilton more often too. But I was just like, you don't need. I think there's enough to go around. I mean, T.Y.
They've
Hilton
been saying
and
that since his rookie year. When does it start?
what's I mean? T.Y. Hilton and Dante Moncrief are probably the future of that team as far as the receivers are concerned. Reggie Wayne's still Andrew Luck's favorite guy, so you could start him and roll him out there. But I don't know.
Reggie Wayne, dude, again. Oh man, I'm honestly I have to do an entire fucking like solo rant episode just
Mhm.
based on drafting people that you want to perform, that you
Mhm.
think are going to perform. I mean, a lot of the times when you look halfway through the season, you look back on your draft and you
Right.
say, "How did I not know this?" You
Right.
know. So it's like you can only do that so many times before you
Mhm.
have to fucking switch it up, or you're
Right.
insane.
Right.
And I think the Steven Jacksons of the world and the Reggie Waynes of the world and the Andre Johnsons of the world
Right.
and the just names that you just keep drafting them based on their name and not based on actual statistics and
Mhm.
history and especially recent history. Um,
Right.
I don't know. Like the Doug Martins of the world, it's another one. Doug Martin didn't do
Yeah.
shit last year. He didn't look like shit in the preseason. He didn't
Right.
even like bust one off like MJD did in that preseason game. He didn't. He showed no one whatsoever a good reason why they should be drafting him in the third and fourth rounds, but yet they did in
Right.
almost every single fucking draft.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not looking good for Muscle Hamster. I'm gonna go right to the next game. This will probably be the last game I cover. Detroit and the Jets. Um, it's real simple. I think the only players you can start with confidence on the Detroit side are probably in the passing game. Calvin Johnson, Golden Tate, um, Matt Stafford, Reggie Bush. I don't. I think Drake Bell doesn't have a great game on the ground. I don't think Reggie Bush has a great game on the ground because the Jets' run defense is actually pretty damn good. Um, I would also start the Lions defense, which is who I'm streaming this week, just because they have a juicy matchup against a depleted Jets offense and a quarterback who just likes to make bad decisions. The Lions don't score a lot outdoors as well, so you got to watch that
We're
too.
going into that game.
Yeah.
What about Calvin Johnson be fucking
On the injury report,
on the injury report? Sort
you
of
just got to watch him.
questionable.
But if he starts, you got to play him. I mean, I had him that year where he was having injury problems and stuff like that, and you know,
What did you say to me earlier today about him?
I said, remember when we talked about Andre Johnson a couple years ago about getting old and breaking down and stuff like that, and him, just. I think we're starting to see a little bit of that with Calvin Johnson. That said, if he's healthy and he's active, you're going to start him. But I think Calvin Johnson might be just one of those guys where the second half of the year, you might just have to start tempering your expectations with him. Which is a pretty lofty expectation for Calvin Johnson, don't get me wrong. But I still just think
that he was drafted like 5-6 off the board.
Yeah, which is fine. Which is fine, but at the same time, what I'm saying is like the injuries are starting to become a problem now. Like it's just this stuff that's coming up every week, and he's sitting out practices and stuff like that, and you just wonder how much longer he can hold up. So probably a good sell high candidate right now, Calvin Johnson. I can't believe I'm saying that, but if you're really hurting for running back and you have Calvin Johnson, like I would flip him for a number 2 running back and a number 2 receiver in the heartbeat. I think. If you're
wait, who are we talking? Calvin Johnson?
Yeah, I mean, just based off the landscape, I don't think. I mean, I guess you can get a number 1 receiver, but I'm just thinking.
Well, let's do this. Let's play. let's give people a little tip here about trading in fantasy football. One of the things that I sort of want to do, if what you're saying, if you're trying to ship him off, you don't have to tell everybody that that you don't think he's going to be that truth. Most people see that 160-yard game and 2 touchdowns. They also see the name Calvin Johnson. And if you can sort of like moonwalk into trades by being like, all right, well, I guess I'll give you Calvin Johnson and say somebody and somebody for Le'Veon Bell and, I don't know.
Maybe like a number 2 receiver.
Whoever it might be.
Maybe Mike Wallace.
Yeah, number 2.
I would do it. I would trade Calvin Johnson for Le'Veon and Mike Wallace. I totally would do it.
You know what I'm saying? So
I would do it.
You're like, okay, yes, I'm giving up Calvin Johnson, but I also think that I'm also getting the best running back in the game. And no one can sort of look at your trade and say, when they look back at it, it's like, okay, well, yeah, that was a fair trade, but you are building your team based on sort of, expectations, and that can backfire sometimes. Like last year, I had Gio Bernard, and I had a feeling that either his production was going to go down or he might get hurt or something like that. So I ended up trading for AJ Green, and I had Julio Jones, AJ Green, and I had a bunch of pretty serviceable running backs, and I built myself a really good squad. And then Julio Jones breaks his foot literally the next week. But if I was trotting out AJ Green and Julio Jones week in and week out, the sort of production that they were going to be giving me, it just trumps sort of anything that Gio Bernard as my number 3 or 3.5 last year was going to be able to do. And that's how you sort of build great fantasy football teams.
Yeah, I mean, he's still the number 4 ranked fantasy receiver, but, I mean, you're drafting him as the top guy, and, if the Giants didn't crap to bed in week 1, I mean, where would he be ranked right now? I mean, he hasn't gotten more than 85 yards his last two games, um, and he doesn't have a touchdown. And he played
Nope.
at Carolina and at Green Bay, which for Calvin Johnson, he's supposed to be matchup proof. So, um, you know, sell high right now is what I would
Well,
do.
he is. He is technically sort of schedule proof, team proof,
Hmm.
except when Matt Stafford is throwing
Yeah, but I don't.
picks and fumbling balls.
Well, I mean, that's true, but I mean, he's been able to produce like a top five receiver despite Matt Stafford, and with some scrubbier quarterback. So I don't buy into that too much. I more or less buy into the fact that he's starting to become one of those guys that's going to have nagging injuries every week, and how much can you trust it? And if you're hurting at other positions, maybe now's the time to maybe move on from Calvin Johnson and try to get, like you said, a Le'Veon Bell and maybe a lesser receiver, or a receiver who has a really nice schedule coming up. In addition to that said receiver's top running back option, um, and go from there. I think I would trade Calvin Johnson for Jimmy Graham right now, even though the production's kind of like the same. I would like Graham to have more of a bounce back appeal than Calvin Johnson. So
That's I mean that's extremely bold, but I can almost see where you're coming from. Jimmy Graham is basically the second most important player in that on that team aside
mhm,
from Drew Brees himself,
right.
and he seems to be healthy. Is he having a quietly good year? Is he number one tight end, or is he just before tonight?
No, no, I
Was
don't
he
think
number
he's a
one
number
tight
one tight
end?
end. Before tonight, I don't think he was number one
Close.
either. I don't think he was number one tight end before tonight at all. I think Julius Thomas was.
Oh, that's right, because Julius Thomas has like 6 touchdowns or some crazy shit like that.
No, he's got one in each game. He just has that, which Donnell
No,
probably passed him.
he had three in the first game, didn't he?
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, he does have six. You're right. Yeah. But anyway, you're not starting any Jets, like I said. Um, I wouldn't trust any of them. Um, it's all about the Lions in this game,
Jets.
and you kind of move
No,
on
fuck the
from it.
Jets. Jeremy Curley is having some pretty decent games.
Yeah, I picked him up as a flyer last week and threw him out there, but when I tend to pick players up based on the situation and what I think the offense is going to be before I actually watch it. And then I actually watch it because obviously they're on my fantasy team, and then I kind of reevaluate it. And by reevaluating what Jeremy Curley is I reevaluate as this. Um, he's the best guy that's healthy out there right now. He's a shifty slot guy, but he's a bit undersized, so bigger corners will be able to, you know, take advantage of that. And the other thing about it is too is just that Geno Smith, he sometimes you just don't know what he's thinking when he's trying to get people the ball. If Geno Smith would have heavily targeted Jeremy Curley, there was probably a chance they come back and beat the Bears. But he was trying to go downfield. He was making crazy plays. You know, the shallow cross was wide open all night for Curley just because those linebackers couldn't stay with him. But Geno would just overthrow or underthrow, or he would throw it to Ivory in the flat, and he would take it for some decent yardage. And yeah, I think Curley probably had his best fantasy game of the year. To be honest with you, as long as I'll take that back. As long as Geno Smith is quarterback, Curley's probably had his best fantasy game of the year. Um, Michael Vick gets in there.
Ouch. So Michael Vick gets in there. He gets fucking hurt because he doesn't know how to fucking dive. He slides head first like a fucking dumb fuck. Too old, not fast enough to be doing that shit, and way too frail. How many fucking seasons how many seasons has Mike Vick ruined?
Well, I mean, I
Being
hear what you're
stupid.
saying, but
Just
at the
making
same
bad
time, Geno Smith has made some terrible throws. I mean, he's done it like Kirk Cousins, and it stunts the growth of receivers, especially slot guys, because it's like an easy throw to make, but they just want to make the difficult ones. You know, the
Mike
slot.
Vick. Mike Vick is Russell Wilson's like evil twin. He's basically everything that Russell Wilson is everything that Mike Vick should have been for years and years and years. Just making the smart decisions, not necessarily going down the field all the time, getting getting the 3 yards when 3 yards was available, getting the 7 yards when 7 yards was available, and not going for 10 when 7 was available, and not going for 7 when 3 was available. And that's why Seattle is actually so good. It's that they just have a smart mobile quarterback. He's the mobile quarterback that's doing all the right things. He is what they've always wanted in a mobile quarterback.
Right. Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But that's going to be the last game I'm going to cover. So when Keith jumps in, it'll be interesting to see what you guys have to say about Miami and Oakland, Tampa Bay, Pittsburgh, the last 2 1:00 games. I'm interested to see what Miami's offense is going to do, just to touch on that after all the nonsense that Phil been stirred up. Another reason why I can't stand some of these head coaches. Huh?
Who's your flyer of the week?
I just picked him up actually. But I don't know if I'm going to throw.
Here, let me put your feet to
the
the fire
of the week. I'll tell you right now because I'll probably play him Sunday night based on the night rule thing that we've talked about. Kenny Stills is my flyer of the week. I think this is a week that Breeze connects on a bomb and the Saints offense gets it rolling a little bit. I think that Saints-Cowboys game could be like a 38-34 game. Colston's kind of disappearing. Brandon Cooks is good. And I think Brandon Cooks and Jimmy Graham get more involved. But I think the deep ball will be available for the Saints in this game. And I think Drew Brees connects with Kenny Stills for at least a touchdown of 50 yards or greater on Sunday night. So
Kenny Stills, okay.
Yeah, he's my flyer of the week.
All right. He's your flyer of the week. All right, let me give you a this or that guy. Which one of the rookie waiver wire running backs is going to have the better game? Brandon Oliver out of San Diego or Darren Reeves out of Carolina?
I want to say Brandon Oliver, and it's only because of opportunity. I think San Diego will be able to get enough of a lead on Jacksonville that they'll be able to mix Oliver in as to save Donald Brown, who also got a lot of carries last week. He had 37. So I think Oliver has a chance to jump in there and do some things. I'm putting in a waiver claim for Sankey
because he had 31 for 62.
Oh, whatever. He still had a lot of carries.
But still, too many.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I might put in a flyer for Oliver this week if I don't get Sankey, and just kind of stash him a little bit, just because I think he can get more involved. And Donald Brown's always had an injury history too, so we'll see. But he does run the ball really well. So, but yeah, my flyer of the week is Kenny Stills. Honorable mention goes out to. I believe honorable mention goes out to. Trying to think now. There's a guy, Stevie Johnson, against the Eagles secondary.
Stevie Johnson. You think Stevie Johnson's going to do it again with no Vernon Davis out there?
Yeah. I think even without Vernon Davis being there, he's going to do it. I don't think Jim Harbaugh was too happy about the nonsense that Anquan Bolden pulled in the last game. And Harbaugh's an old school kind of coach, so he'll sit a guy down or not get him involved and pull him off the field just to get his attention.
Which bullshit are you referring to?
When he headbutted that guy and got the penalty, and then he was running his mouth after the game saying that the refs cost him the game, just caused a lot of consternation. He did drop a pass or two as well, but he usually catches everything. But I think the Philly secondary can be exploited, and I think Stevie Johnson is going to be a problem for the Eagles on Sunday. I think they'll roll coverage to Crabtree. They'll play underneath and try to make sure Vernon Davis, if he plays, doesn't do that much. But I really think that between, if I'm looking at Bolden or Stevie Johnson, I think it's going to be Stevie Johnson. I really do. I think Stevie's going to be that third guy that's going to come in and create some problems. And I could
Yeah,
totally be wrong.
I'll
I could
believe it when I see it.
totally be wrong about this too, because the other side of it is this: the Niners realize that they can't let Kaepernick is not Joe Montana. And I just saw a clip of Anquan Bolden arguing with Jim Harbaugh on the sideline, so that's another. It's funny that we're talking about that and it just pops up on NFL Network. The Niners are going to probably realize sooner than later that Kaepernick's not Joe Montana, and he should not be slinging the ball around 35 times a game. They have two viable running backs, and they have a pretty good offensive line. It's time to get back to basics, run the ball, especially against an Eagles team who can't really stop the run. And the last thing you want to do is have them out-possession you in a game. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Niners get into that mode of running the ball. I know they made comments that the reason Frank Gore didn't get a lot of carries last week is because they went to try to set the tempo with their passing game, which against Arizona I think is kind of stupid because they actually have a pass rush and their secondary is fairly decent, and then try to establish the running game in the second half. So again, offensive coordinators and coaches trying to outsmart themselves again. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see more carries out of the backfield for Hyde and Gore this week too. So, but I still like Stevie Johnson and Kenny Stills this week.
Who has
Kenny
more
Stills,
yards, Hyde or Gore?
I think Gore has more yards, but Hyde may have more fantasy points. So maybe 80 total for Gore and 40 total and a touchdown for Hyde.
Hold on, I'm on the phone with Keith.
Okay.
All right, we'll change the stupid fucking ass and then hop in.
All right. Well, that's it for me. On the East Coast here, I got to check out. But we got it on tape, so it'll be interesting. We'll be able to evaluate Sunday during the games my Kenny Stills Flyer of the Week pick. So that'll be interesting. Looking forward to that. Antoine Smith's a good flyer this week too, I think. I think he gets in the end zone again. And I think if Antoine Smith gets in the end zone again, I think you will see more opportunity because I know for a fact the coaches love him. I know for a fact that he's explosive. I know for a fact he runs hard, and he is a type of guy that he can get the ball and turn it upfield and turn it into a big play. And the Falcons love big plays, and Antoine Smith could be that guy that could help you out down the road.
Yeah, I wonder if anybody's taken him yet.
I just picked him up, but I am, and then I just turned around and put a waiver in for Sankey over him. And the only reason that is because I look down the road at my schedule and I'm going to need a viable number 3 at some point because of the way the buys are going to affect me. And just based on touches, Sankey's in a better situation. Antoine's kind of like more of like a boomer bust type guy.
Yeah. So who would you rather have? Anton? Oh wow. Full practice. Never mind. Anton Smith, injury alert, probable hamstring, full practice. But who would you rather have? Anton or DeJuan Harris?
Antoine. That's a good question. I'm gonna say Anton Smith because I think the Falcons' offensive line is better than the Packers' offensive line right now as far as run blocking is concerned. I think the reason the Falcons can't run the ball is because they keep giving the ball to Steven Jackson.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So,
yeah,
and the Packers haven't shown it to me yet. So Antoine Smith definitely. I think both looking at number 3 type guys in their situation, I think I like Antoine Smith better because the Falcons' offense is better than the Packers right now by like leaps and bounds. So I'd rather have Antoine Smith right now and probably for the rest of the season, I think.
Yeah, I would probably agree with you. He did put it on the carpet, and there's still just so many running backs between Quiz and Freeman. So You know,
The reason I'm saying
Juan is technically number 3, whereas Antoine
Right.
is technically 4.
well, let me ask you a question. He's technically 4 in a situation where they've had 2 of the same running backs last year. You've already done the exercise with Steven Jackson. You've already done the exercise with Jacquizz Rodgers. You know who he is. From a pure football standpoint and from a pure scouting, and if you put on your scout, you put on your GM hat at this point, why on earth would you bring in Devontae Freeman and Antoine Smith if you already had Steven Jackson and Jacquizz Rodgers? If you weren't ready to make Jacquizz Rodgers that guy, then why bring the other 2 guys in? Just so you can throw 4 running backs out there?
I agree, but for some reason, Mike Smith just doesn't seem all that bright to me. I think they're doing well in spite of Mike Smith.
I think the offensive coordinator demanded a little more big playability from his running backs, and that's probably why. Don't get me wrong, Jacquizz Rodgers can be a little slippery guy and all the other kind of stuff, but the coaches really like Antoine Smith, and every time he's touched the ball, good things have happened.
Every time,
except for that fumble, every time he's touched the ball, good things have happened.
Welcome to the let's welcome Fantasy Football Keith Fantasy Football Pro at Keith Fantasy Football Pro on Twitter. Keith is here, and he's not making no noises.
Can't hear him.
Yeah, can't hear you, kid.
Well, I'm gonna jump out of this call, so you guys can just kind of take it to the house.
All right,
here.
brother. We will we'll finish out the games. Yeah, here
All
you
right.
go. There you go.
There he is.
So I can't put my headphones in and use my mic. It's like
Yeah, it's probably gonna mute it.
Womp womp. All right, Johnny.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
All right.
later on, John. It was good talking to you, buddy.
Yeah, no problem. Later.
All right. So we're going to end this first half of the sort of Week 5 preview. Week 5? No, Week 4 preview. And I'm going to start with this kid. And we're going to do another little podcast before my girl gets here and shoots us both dead.
What time is it there?
10 o'clock. So she should be home probably around 10:30. So we'll make it a little quick, but we'll see how it turns out.
You're gonna stop it and redo it.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop it and redo
I take
it.
a piss anyway, so this is
All
all
right.
saying that.
All right. Well, before you take a piss, join up because I need to do a bunch of shit. So.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for watching. No one, but all right.
That was awesome.
Peace.